You come from a very unique perspective in where you had worked for so many years. You were doing the audience warm-up, and you were a comedy booker at the Late Show with David Letterman, and you were there during one of the most trying times in our country's history, the first show Dave did back after 9/11. Right. How he handled that show was masterful, but how do you think he would handle, or how do you think other late night comics are handling shows during the pandemic as we try to make sense of the whole thing?
You know, I think about that often, how, like you think about comedians who have passed, like George Carlin and Bill Hicks are two examples of comics who were social commentary comics. And it's a shame they're not around to be able to hear them during this time. And then Letterman was so incredible during 9/11. And I wish I've heard him when he was talking to Chappelle a little bit about what's going on in the world. And I've heard him be very frank about stuff, but it'd be interesting to hear what he had to say or how he would find the humor in it. I mean, you can't find the humor in this, but you find the humor in the world and you do that. And I find some of the other shows I think Jimmy Kimmel handles it the best because he's very tongue-in-cheek, very playful, and also very honest. And Colbert as well. But what's interesting is that a lot of these shows, that's all they talk about. As opposed to, I remember 9/11, we had Dan Rather and we had Regis. So the show was very serious at the beginning, which it should be. And then Regis was kind of, serious but funny. So I think that, you find the humor in the macabre. You find the, you have to laugh. When 9/11 happened down on my street in my neighborhood, I shut the news off at night and watched some comedy films because it really helped me to get through at least a couple of hours worth.
Yeah,
so
and I think that's
it's
what
really
a lot
tough.
of people are doing, is trying to sort of find that sense of normalcy, that escape, because, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, and it's going to continue going on. Talking with Eddie Brill, very, very funny guy, comedian, writer, and you touched on Regis Philbin, and that's something else I wanted to ask you about. We lost Regis Philbin earlier this year. What was your relationship like with him, having done The Late Show so many times?
Yeah, I mean, he was like one of the family, and he was there often. And I had met him beforehand. I had done comedy shows where he was involved, and he was always very, very brilliant and funny and silly, and one of the last of the great broadcasters, and very sad to see him go. But I'm very blessed to be able to know him and to have worked with him and to be around him.
Now, I would imagine, knowing what a workhorse you are, I would imagine you have taken whatever downtime you've had to come up with some new things to do. But I also know, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I also know that you recently returned to the stage, which I would think has to be both heartwarming but also challenging for any stand-up comic. What was it like in your experience getting back on stage?
Well, it was interesting. My very last show was March 14th, and it was a late show, and people were starting to freak out already. So there was only 2 people in the audience.
Ooh.
4 people in the
Sounds
audience.
like our show.
Yeah, there were 4 people. The reason why I said 2, because my brain worked that way. The 2 of the 4 people were from the audience, the first audience. So, that's why it felt like it was only 2 new people. The first show, there was about 14 people. And then it went until October 16th. And I was able to do a gig in California, in Alameda, which is in the Bay Area. And a friend of mine has a club there, and I helped him. I was his consultant. I helped him put it together. We can't perform in his beautiful club, but outdoors he has a setup. And it was the first time I said, Siri, how many days between March 14th and October 16th? 149 days. I was like, oh my God, I hadn't done stand-up in 149 days. I'd done a Zoom show, but that's not a show.
No.
That's not comedy, really. And it's not comedy the way it should be. So so the first show, I had gone through a lot of my old tapes and stuff on the plane on my way out there. And then the first show, it was okay. I was a little bit off sync in my mind, but the crowd was good. The second show, though, it's like I had never left. And I did about an hour. And if there wasn't a sort of curfew where you perform outdoors and you had to stop at 10, I could have gone to 11. I was on fire. I was playing. I was good. Then Saturday night, it was great and fantastic. And then Sunday night, it was just really nice. And I just felt alive again.